And action.
Good evening, I'm Harrison Rainey. Thanks for coming to the show. Tonight we have Zach Swanson on the show to talk about the very popular show Game of Thrones, which shows on HBO. A lot of people love it, some people look down upon it for different reasons, and we're going to talk to Zach about his thoughts on the show. So Zach, as I've gathered, you're a pretty big Game of Thrones fan, are you not?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. So just to kick it off, what is it about the show that you love? Give us some stuff.
Well, I've always loved traditional fantasy settings, and Game of Thrones takes that genre and takes some cliches about it and turns them on their head. Like, this is like an 8-year-old spoiler now, so I think it's okay. But the main
Spoiler alert, guys.
main character, Ned Stark, dying at the end. Like, that's I think what got me hooked is I was so used to traditional fantasy where like someone always swoops in at the end or something that like even at his execution I was like, all right, can't wait to see how he gets out of this.
I think a lot of people thought that when the first season aired, right?
Yeah. He's just dead. That's kind of what pulls you in, and just I like the marrying of fantasy world with like realistic, real life people.
Mm-hmm. So, because as you've said, it kind of mixes politics, medieval politics, but also a lot of fantasy. What do you prefer one over the other, like the fantasy versus the politics?
Oh, well, the politics and stuff is certainly interesting to watch, but I definitely prefer the fantasy and the battles over. I mean, the intrigue's cool to watch, and I like them all both for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the political plots and stuff are compelling, but there's just something fun about watching two armies fight.
I believe it. All right, so one thing about this show, it's known for having a lot of violence, a lot of sexual content. What are your feelings about that? Like, does it not bother you? Does it bother you? Like, how do you react to that?
Well, it really doesn't faze me too much. A lot of people do criticize it for its violence and sexual nature, but it is a show on HBO. Like, it's not intended for kids. Like, and sometimes I feel like it's a little gratuitous, but for the most part, I enjoy it.
Right. Yeah. So I've read articles, and maybe you have too, that like some people basically consider it pornographic, sexist. I mean, what would you say to that?
Pornographic, maybe lightly in the early seasons, but they kind of delve away from that as the show goes on and mostly use sex for the purposes of like how it is in reality, like just between couples and occasionally people who are attracted to each other. But the sexist comment, I really don't think it's a sexist show. One of the main characters is Daenerys,
right.
Queen of Dragons, and it's all about her kind of being powerful in her own right. Arya is also another great counterexample to people who think the show's sexist.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's arguably one of the more deadly than, I'd say, any of the male characters on the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. So then, that all makes sense. So what would you say then is like the appropriate audience? Because, there might be some people who react more to violence or react more to sexual content. So what appropriate audience, if someone was asking you that, what would you say?
I would say people who like young adults to there's such a wide age range now because the show's so popular and pervasive.
Mm-hmm.
I think originally the show was going for like late teens to early 20s, but now like you and I both watch it. My parents even watch it. A lot of people watch Game of Thrones. I think that they've cast a pretty wide net.
Your mom's tougher than mine. She would not want to watch that show.
My parents love it.
Well, hey, to each his own. Yeah. Nice. Do you have a favorite season?
My favorite season would probably be either this last one, was that season 8 or
7.
Season 7. Just because the this is a family show, but the Battle of the Bastards was one of my favorite episodes.
Oh, same. I love that
was
episode.
such an intense fight. And
No, that was actually season 6.
oh, well, in season 6.
Yeah, no, honestly, I love season 6 and 7 too.
My favorite fight from this last season then would be the one with where Jaime fights Daenerys and the Dothraki, where Drogon
yeah.
just comes in and takes them all out. The cinematography on that was really cool with Jaime in the water. Yeah, it's just an incredible show.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, what are you most excited about for the last season? Because they've gone through 7. Last one, they're taking like a whole extra 6 months to put this together. And how do you,
one of the most compelling things about Game of Thrones is they at least try to sell you on the illusion that no one's safe. So I'm interested to see who's going to survive to the end of the show. I think especially now that they're wrapping up, a lot of any fan favorite character is just readily available for the chopping block because the show's ending, which is really interesting to see.
Do you have fan theories? You guys know this. Fan theories are flying around everywhere.
Yep.
Do you have a specific fan theory? What do you think's going to happen?
It's
what you
not
want
a
to
fan
happen?
theory anymore, but I was touting it for years that Jon was a Targaryen, and they showed in the last finale I was right.
Well, technically, there's some people are still speculating about that.
Oh, he is. They outright said it. Like, how
Did
much
they
more
though?
proof-
Some people
how
are
much
saying
more
they
proof
only
do
like
you
strongly
need?
alluded to it.
No, they outright said it.
I might need to go back and watch that episode.
Like,
I'm not sure. I mean, don't get me wrong. I agree with you. Just some people
they cut
don't.
back to Bran and Sam, and she's like, "Oh yeah, he's king." And I had so many family arguments. Like my uncle refused to believe me. I'm like, "I've read all the books, Uncle Dan. I know."
Oh man. All right. So that already happened though. Like anything for the last season, or was that like the main big one for you?
That was the main one. I also think, they're definitely gonna have to kill off like a fan favorite character because it's Game of Thrones.
Definitely.
I would be surprised if Tyrion makes it.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sad. All right. Well, Zach, being a big Game of Thrones nerd myself, I wish we could go on talking about this forever, but we got to wrap up for now. Hope we can maybe get together another time,
Yeah,
talk
of
some more
course.
Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank
I
you for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Thanks, Zach. Have a good night.